Welcome to the Quality Meat Scotland podcast. Industry updates and best practice to promote, support, develop and protect the Scottish red meat sector.
Hello and welcome to this podcast brought to you by Quality Meat Scotland. I'm Mark Stephen. Primarily, QMS exists to promote and support Scotland's red meat industry, and part of that is looking at systems or schemes that can improve existing businesses. Over the last few weeks in these podcasts, we've looked pretty extensively at cattle and sheep, but not so much so at pigs. So this week, we're going to be putting that right. In particular, we're going to be talking about the Agrosoft system of electronic pig production recording and benchmarking. Joining me this week are Danny Skinner, a commercial pig farmer who runs the family farm in Inch. Now, Danny's got a 440 sow high health breeding unit producing bacon weight pigs for sale. He's also chairman of the Aberdeen Pig Benchmarking Group, so he's obviously a believer in keeping track of things and analysing data. And Allan Ward is a pig specialist for QMS. Alan's an old hand. He's been in the industry for nearly 40 years. He used to work for PIC in a variety of roles, culminating with the position of production supply manager. And he's been with QMS for 15 years, working closely with Scottish pig producers on a range of projects to improve pig health and efficiency. I'm going to come to you, Danny, for a start. Just from a user's perspective, describe the Agrosoft system. What's it designed to do?
We record a lot of things on paper in the pig unit, but we need to join these all different bits together. And Agrosoft, it's an old program that has been made in Denmark many years ago, and it works very well on the pig side, especially on the breeding side. We find it very useful there. The finishing side, there's less detail to put in, so you get less detail out. But this breeding side, it is an extremely advantageous tool to use. The more accurate data we obviously put in, the better data you get out.
What kind of data do you need to input?
We put in lots of things into the breeding side of it. Every sow has got an individual ID number. Each sow has got a sow card on the system. We put in every litter. Every pig that dies has got a cause of death, the date it was died, so you know how old it is. We record every medication that the sows or the piglet gets during that lactation. There is also obviously the weaning record where the pigs are weaned, so we know the size of the pigs weaned and the number of each sow. Then when you go to the finishing side, it's a wee bit more simple. It's basically the numbers that are weaned into the finishing herd unit and any deaths that occur, again, cause of death, then the sales that we put out to the slaughterhouse.
Alan, QMS have signed a 3-year contract with Agrosoft, and you want to run this system out to pig farmers all over Scotland. You're obviously believers in this system. How would you characterise the benefits of a computer-based recording system like this one versus the old manual type?
Some form of non-electronic manual recording system is probably adequate for small pig units, but as the unit size increases, this type of system has its limitations, whereas a computer-based system is capable of holding extensive records of large numbers of animals, and it easily manipulates complex sets of data that would be impractical to handle manually.
So how does Agrosoft benchmarking actually work?
70% of commercial Scottish pig producers use the system. We send quarterly benchmarking reports with data from Scottish units. We send that to both indoor and outdoor producers. It also gets sent to the unit managers and stock people, as they're the people on the ground making decisions. The benchmarking can also be undertaken using Scottish and UK data, and this allows producers to see how well they're doing against fellow producers for all the key performance indicators used within the industry.
When we're talking about benchmarking, we're talking in a national context, UK-wide context, etc. You want to know how your farm compares against everybody else. I mentioned right at the top that effectively, you are chairman of the Aberdeen Pig Benchmarking Group. What does a local benchmarking group do that is of benefit?
We started our benchmarking group in 2006. We also had a Grampian Country Pig Group, food group at that time, which had a huge amount of outdoor sows. We go to each other's house once every 6 months. We could just go around the units on the houses. We don't actually go into the unit. We would video the units initially so we could see how each other's unit ran. And we can discuss things between the 6-7 of us, and we'll be getting ideas from each other, which is probably the most important thing. The main advantage of the benchmarking group and the small group is that we can learn from each other.
Is there a sense there where you are trying very hard to compare like to like, just on a geographical basis? You're not trying to compare something that's happening down in Devon, for example. You're saying, well, this is in Aberdeenshire. We're all roughly on a same level playing field here.
Yes, I think that would be right. And the fact that we're all indoor, and now we're all roughly the same size of unit. We're all farm units. So we're all very similar on units. And the difference when we first started was quite dramatic. Some people were really good at some things and poor at others. And over the years, we've managed to benefit from the folk that were good at one thing to pull other folk together. And now we're a far more even playing field. And the fact that we've been improving every main thing we'll look at every time we'll go is remarkable.
And Allan, to you, just elaborate for me the benefits to pig producers of the Agrosoft system.
Well, Agrosoft offers the ability to make management decisions using action lists and analysis reports, which will improve production efficiency. Some examples of action lists are like you can input a pregnancy, whether the sow's positive or negative, which helps you to make the decision whether she should be reserved or culled. There's an empty days list also. Again, that allows you to make the decision whether to cull or reserve, because obviously empty days are non-productive as you're feeding that sow that's not performing. Positive negative list, that's another one. I think Danny actually uses this one, so that's a list where when you wean sows every week, if you're producing your own replacements with dam line semen, you can pick the best, most productive sows to produce your replacements. So it's a really useful list. Boar fertility chart's another one, so you can identify boars that are throwing sows that return to service. Examples of specific reports for analysis is actually a production report that's produced that gives you 1 year's worth of data by quarter, showing you all the main KPIs, which can be printed off and given to farm staff to show how well we're doing and any areas for improvement. Parity analysis is another really good form that's produced, as it allows forward planning to make sure there's enough gilts in the pipeline to replace the old sows that will be culled, and that obviously keeps a steady production of pigs in the system.
As Danny was saying, this system has been around for quite a few years. They've upgraded it and streamlined it. There is a new mobile app attached to this. How does it work?
When working on their farms, many producers still register the daily events on paper, and then once they're in front of their computer, they would enter the data into the recording system. That's got various disadvantages from the point of view that you have to do double entry, and there's a possibility of losing paperwork, and it may also become illegible. When entering the breeding and feeding herd data with the mobile app, it automatically synchronises the data into the recording system without having to enter the data twice, which obviously saves time. The mobile app is compatible with iOS and Android smartphones and tablets. The mobile app provides information on the spot to make daily management decisions, as it gives a valuable insight into the sow history. For example, when you bring up an individual sow card that Danny was mentioning earlier onto your mobile, what it does, it shows you all that sow's history, including age, number of piglets born alive, number of stillbirths, number of pigs weaned, and you can see if the sow's a poor performer, so you can make a decision on whether she should be kept or be culled.
I must admit, we haven't moved to the digital smartphone system. I'm probably too old to move on to it. We do most of the recording on cards. So I can go into the room and instantly see on that card what there is. So I'm still on the preference of the paper system. I can understand that it takes a bit of time, but thankfully I've got a very nice wife that does all my recording onto the computer for me. I simply take the information home, and she is very good at putting it on. But I think the younger generation will take it on far more than I will, because well, we've got to move with the times.
But you don't want to?
I don't want to. I find it difficult. My eyesight is probably failing. You can see it in the card. Anybody that works in a farm, we don't all have to have a smartphone in our unit. And our unit is particularly poor in phone signal. So therefore, it wouldn't be live all the time. So you could get in a signal good enough to get the card up on your phone is extremely difficult for us. So we need to stay on paper at the moment until we can get a system that we can get better phone signal with.
Allan, is that a valid excuse?
Not really, because I know what happens is if you've got the phone and you're not getting a signal on the farm that would synchronise, when you went for your lunch break off the farm, say.
Are you saying you don't need a phone signal out in the field to actually input the data?
That's correct, yes.
Aye, but if someone puts the data in and then someone else looks at it, the data can be 2 hours behind. So therefore, you don't always looking at exactly the same thing. That's only a slight disadvantage, I would say.
The biggest thing for me is no paperwork. Sometimes when you get paperwork and it's dusty and you maybe get a bit of feces on it, not so easy to read. And the actual looking at the sow history is really good, because you just put in the sow's tag number and it brings up all the history. And, I feel that's it's really useful. You've got that information on the spot.
Danny, you're putting in all this data, you're putting it in cards, admittedly, but what do you get back out, and certainly in the Agrosoft system, what do you get back out in the way of progress reports? How regularly do you get them?
You can get them as regular as you require, some weekly, some monthly, and some 6 monthly. Weekly, we would always take the service analysis sheet out, basically giving us a list of the sows that haven't been served after this week's weaning. We also use the fertility report, which shows the previous week's born alive, born dead, weaned, and it also shows you can spread it right across a year, so you can get a year's data on that one sheet to show you the week's average, born alive, born dead, mummified, weaned. So it's really useful to print off on a Sunday night, pass it off on to the pigman in the morning, and he can see how he's doing compared to last week. On a monthly, we would take out the whole herd report. And again, you can see a month, 3 months, 6 months, all in one sheet. So you can see your progress, or in some cases, not progress, in your whole herd. So you can see the sow herd and the finishing herd. 2 sheets of paper, you can see everything. And then when we're maybe having the vet visit, quarterly vet visit, I will take out my piglet mortality sheet, and that shows cause of death for that 3 month period. Or if I want to have a 6 month period, I can drill it up to 6 months. It's very simple. You tick the box to say how often you want it. And again, I will do that for the finishing pigs as well. There's so many reports you could take out. If you see a problem, it's very easy to, if you don't understand how to get the report out, the Agrosoft team are really good. You email them, tell them what you want, and they'll show you exactly what boxes to tick. So if you want a specific report for a specific thing, they can 99% of the time manage to get it for you. So which is a great use to you, because we're not all computer whiz kids. And sometimes you don't know exactly where to look to get the report you want. And it's easier to email them, and they really are excellent at giving you the reports.
Allan, is there a particular reason why QMS decided to hitch up with Agrosoft?
Well, as part of the Pig Monitor Farm project, we've used Agrosoft in the past, and it's always been a really good system, and the producers feel that it's one of the best systems out there. There are other systems, but most of the producers were using it before we even started the Monitor Farm project, which was when we started using Agrosoft through QMS.
And the system, the Agrosoft system, Danny, I mean, as a farmer, as a user, has it done what it said on the tin? Has it improved the efficiency, maybe the profitability of your business?
Oh, it certainly, it gives you, if you don't record it and get good reports out, you don't know what you're doing. So you have to do that to have a baseline to start with. And some of the improvements we have made is quite staggering. We graph all our main entrants, and we can see the trend lines are all going in the right direction. Our food conversion rate has improved by 17%, where pigs per sow per year has improved by 15%. over the last 12 years. So it just shows how well you are doing against each other.
Some of these insights, into your unit, were there any surprises there, stuff that you didn't expect?
Yes, sometimes you can have an inclination that you think the pigs maybe not growing quite what you thought, but it's an inclination. And the advantage is, if you go into Agrosoft and you do your month on month over 6 months, or even a shorter period in the foreign side, you can do weekly, and you can see, yes, my inclination was correct, and that there is a problem, and that makes sure that you can get the vet involved, the nutritionist involved, to sort that problem out quickly.
Danny's talking as a farmer. He's talking as a user of this system, and he has access to his own data. But what it's showing is the efficiency of the farm, potentially things like animal welfare issues, sustainability. Can you see a time when that data, rather than just being from a user's perspective, could you use it as a selling tool and say, look, this is how efficient we are, this is how sustainable we are?
Yeah, it's pretty good from the point of view that over the last few years, the indoor herds in Scotland have actually increased their piglets weaned per sow per year, which, by 3 piglets weaned per sow per year. So if you can carry less sows to produce the same amount of piglets, it would reduce your carbon footprint, which is what retailers want to see.
The FCR is the important one there. If you can improve the food conversion ratio of a finishing pig and see it recorded on Agrosoft, that reduces your carbon footprint dramatically.
And, as a user of this system already, Danny, for the farmers in Scotland who are not currently using it, would you encourage them to adopt it?
Certainly, yes. Especially if you're interested in benchmarking at all, which at the end of the day we all should be, because we're all trying to make a living at these pigs. So you really need to have a system. And the biggest advantage is if we're all on Agrosoft. It means you could go into different programs and they might calculate things slightly different. But if we're all in the same system, we all get exactly the same style of result. So it's a true reading against each other. So that's a huge advantage if everybody was on it. And I can't say enough that if you don't record it and look at how you're doing compared with others, you don't really know how you're doing at all. Because on a big unit, especially because we're mostly high health, we can't just pop along and have a look through somebody else's unit. That just doesn't happen. So doing it on paper with Agrosoft is an excellent way to do it.
Danny Skinner and Allan Ward, thank you both very much for taking the time to do this. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will be back next week with another QMS podcast, but from me, Mark Stephen, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Quality Meat Scotland podcast. For news and to listen back to previous episodes of the podcast, visit qmscotland.co.uk. For Scotch beef, Scotch lamb and specially selected pork recipe videos and inspiration, visit www.scotchkitchen.com or follow Scotch Kitchen on Facebook, Instagram or Twitter.